The universe is always speaking to you, my dear. The real question is, have you been listening, or have you been too overwhelmed to hear it? Come closer for a moment, not physically, but inwardly. I want you to gently close the noise around you, just for a few seconds. Take a slow breath in and let it fall out of your body without force. Yes, just like that. Because before we talk about signs, about timing, about meaning, I want you to feel something first. I want you to feel how tired you've been, not just physically, but emotionally. That quiet exhaustion that doesn't always have words, the kind that comes from waiting, from wondering, from asking, why isn't it happening yet? Or, am I doing something wrong? And maybe, my dear, there's a part of you that has been looking for answers everywhere outside of yourself, in other people, in outcomes, in timelines that never seem to match your expectations. But what if I told you something gently, something that might soften the pressure you've been carrying? What if nothing has been silent? What if the universe has been speaking to you this whole time? Not loudly, not in ways that demand attention, but softly, consistently, patiently, like a whisper that never forces itself, only waits to be noticed. You see, we often expect the universe to speak in dramatic moments, big breakthroughs, sudden changes, clear, undeniable signs. But the truth is, it rarely works that way. It speaks in subtleties, in the way a door quietly closes, even when you tried so hard to keep it open, in the way something doesn't work out, not because you failed, but because it was never aligned, in the way you feel a pull or a discomfort that you can't logically explain. Tell me, have you ever felt that? That quiet nudge inside you that says, this doesn't feel right, even when everything on the surface looks fine. Or that strange sense of peace when you let go of something you thought you needed. That, my dear, is the language of the universe. But here's where it becomes tender and a little honest. Most of us have been taught not to listen. We've been conditioned to override those feelings, to chase logic over intuition, to ignore the whispers and wait for something louder, something that feels more certain. So we keep pushing, we keep forcing, we keep asking, why isn't this happening yet? Not realizing that the answer has been gently placed in our path over and over again, not as a punishment, but as guidance. You see, the universe doesn't shout because it doesn't need to. It trusts that when you are ready, truly ready, you will slow down enough to hear. And maybe that's why things have felt confusing lately, because part of you has been trying to move forward, while another part of you has been quietly asking you to pause, not to stop your life, but to reconnect with it. Because listening, real listening, doesn't happen in noise. It happens in stillness. And I know, stillness can feel uncomfortable. When you stop, thoughts rise, feelings surface, questions appear that you've been avoiding. But within that stillness, something else is waiting too. Clarity. Not the kind that arrives all at once, but the kind that unfolds gently, like light entering a room at dawn. Let me ask you something, my dear. What if the delays you've been frustrated about are actually conversations? What if every not yet has been a form of guidance? Not rejection, but redirection. Not absence, but preparation. Think about a seed for a moment. When it is planted beneath the soil, nothing appears to be happening. From the outside, it looks like stillness. like emptiness, like nothing at all. But beneath the surface, something profound is unfolding. Roots are forming, strength is building, the seed is preparing itself. For a moment it cannot rush, and if you were to dig it up too soon to check if it's growing, you would interrupt the very process that allows it to become what it's meant to be. Can you feel that? How similar that is to your own journey. There are parts of your life right now that feel buried, hidden, uncertain, and maybe you've been tempted to force them into the light, to rush the process, to demand clarity, to make something happen, just to escape the discomfort of waiting. But my dear, what if this moment isn't empty? What if it's sacred? What if something within you is quietly growing, even if you can't yet see it? Because the universe doesn't just speak through events. It speaks through timing, through the rhythm of unfolding, through the spaces where nothing seems to be happening, yet everything is being prepared. And I know, waiting can feel like the hardest thing, because it makes you question yourself. It makes you wonder if you missed something, if you misunderstood, if you're somehow behind. But you're not behind. You're in conversation. Every pause, every shift, every unexpected turn is part of a dialogue between you and something greater. And the more you soften, the more you listen, the more that dialogue becomes clear. Not in words, but in knowing, in feeling, in that quiet inner sense that says, this is right, or this is not for me. And here's something even deeper, something I want you to really sit with. The universe doesn't just respond to what you ask for. It responds to who you are becoming. So often, we focus on outcomes. When will it happen? How will it happen? Why hasn't it happened yet? But rarely do we ask, who am I becoming in this process? Because that, my dear, is where the real communication is happening. Every experience you go through, every emotion you feel, every moment of uncertainty is shaping your internal state. And your internal state is the language the universe understands most clearly. Not your words, not your wishes, but your energy, your openness, your readiness to receive. And sometimes, delays are not about the thing you want. They are about the version of you who is meant to receive it. A version of you who is more grounded, more aligned, more capable of holding what you've been asking for without losing yourself in it. Can you see that? How this isn't about being denied, but about being prepared. How this isn't about being ignored, but about being guided. Take another breath with me, slowly, gently, and just notice. What if nothing is against you? What if everything, even the confusion, is part of a conversation designed to bring you closer to yourself? Because when you truly begin to listen, not just with your mind, but with your whole being, you start to notice things differently. You notice the patterns, the repeated feelings, the situations that keep showing up until you understand their message. You notice how certain paths feel heavy, while others feel strangely light. Even if they're uncertain, you begin to trust those sensations instead of dismissing them. And slowly, without force, you begin to align, not by chasing, not by controlling, but by responding to what feels true, responding to what feels aligned, responding to what quietly calls you instead of what loudly pressures you. And this, my dear, is where everything begins to shift. not outside of you first, but within you. Because the moment you start listening, truly listening, you stop asking, why is this happening to me? And you begin to ask, what is this showing me? And that question, that gentle, open question, changes everything because it moves you from resistance into relationship, a relationship with life, with timing, with yourself. And from that place, you don't feel lost anymore. You feel guided, even if you don't have all the answers yet. Even if the path isn't fully clear, you feel held. And my dear, that feeling, that quiet sense of being guided, even in uncertainty, is one of the most beautiful signs that you are finally beginning to hear. The silence you've been feeling, my dear, it isn't empty. It isn't absence. It isn't the universe turning away from you. It is a message, one of the deepest messages you will ever receive. But I know how it feels, sweetheart, when everything goes quiet. No clear signs, no obvious movement, no confirmation that you're on the right path. Just space, just stillness. And in that stillness, your mind begins to fill the gaps. Maybe nothing is happening. Maybe I've been forgotten. Maybe I'm doing this all wrong. But let me gently take your hand here and show you something different. What if silence is not where communication stops? What if silence is where the most important communication begins? You see, when everything is loud, when life is constantly moving, when there are distractions and noise and constant validation, you don't need to listen deeply, because everything is being shown to you on the surface. But when things become quiet, when the external world slows down, when the answers you've been seeking don't arrive in obvious ways, that's when something shifts. The attention that was once directed outward begins to turn inward. And that, my dear, is where the universe has been waiting for you. Not in the noise, but in the space beneath it, because there is a kind of guidance, a kind of knowing that cannot reach you when you are constantly searching outside. It can only be felt when you become still enough to receive it. And I know stillness can feel like discomfort at first, because when everything quiets down, you're left with yourself, your thoughts, your emotions, your fears, your hopes that you've been holding so tightly, sometimes without even realizing it. And maybe that's why silence has felt so heavy for you. Not because it's empty, but because it's revealing. It's showing you what's been underneath all along. The doubts you've been carrying, the expectations you've placed on yourself, the subtle fear that maybe, just maybe, you're not ready or not enough. And my dear, I want you to breathe with me right here, because nothing you are feeling is wrong. Nothing you are noticing within yourself is a problem to fix. It's information. It's awareness. It's the universe gently placing a mirror in front of you, not to judge you, but to help you see. Because how can you align with what you truly want if you haven't fully seen what's been living inside you? How can you receive something new if parts of you are still holding on to old fears, old beliefs, old versions of yourself that were shaped in moments of pain or uncertainty? This is why silence is so powerful, because it doesn't distract you. It doesn't entertain you. It invites you inward. And yes, that invitation can feel uncomfortable, but it is also incredibly sacred, because this is where transformation begins, not when everything is clear, not when everything feels perfect, but right here, in the in-between, in the space where you don't fully know, but you are beginning to feel. And let me tell you something gently, my dear. You don't need to rush out of this space. You don't need to escape it. You don't need to fill it with noise just to feel safe again. Because there is something here waiting for you. A deeper relationship with yourself. A quieter kind of confidence. A knowing that doesn't depend on external validation, but arises from within you, slowly, naturally, as you begin to trust what you feel. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you truly sat with yourself without trying to fix anything, without trying to figure everything out, without trying to force clarity, just sitting, breathing, allowing, not searching, not chasing, just being? It sounds simple, doesn't it? But for many people, it's one of the hardest things to do because we've been taught that we must always be moving, always progressing, always solving. But the universe doesn't operate in constant motion. It moves in cycles, expansion and stillness, action and integration, movement and pause. And right now, you might be in a moment of integration, a moment where everything you've experienced, everything you've learned, everything you've been through is being absorbed, processed, woven into who you are becoming, even if you can't see it yet, even if it doesn't feel like progress. Because progress, my dear, is not always visible. Sometimes it looks like rest. Sometimes it looks like uncertainty. Sometimes it looks like doing nothing, while everything inside of you is quietly rearranging. And this is where I want to gently shift something within you. You don't need constant signs to know you are guided. You don't need constant movement to know you are progressing. You don't need constant answers to know you are on your path. Because guidance, real guidance, often feels like a quiet sense of knowing rather than a loud declaration. It feels like a soft pull rather than a force. It feels like peace, even when things are unclear. And if you're honest with yourself, there have been moments like that, haven't there? Moments where you didn't have all the answers, but something inside you felt calm, certain, in a way you couldn't explain. That wasn't an accident. That was you listening. That was you receiving. That was you being in conversation with something deeper. And the more you allow yourself to return to that space, the less you will depend on external signs to feel secure, because you will begin to trust your own inner language, the way your body responds, the way your heart opens or closes, the way something feels expansive or restrictive. This is the subtle communication that has always been available to you, but it requires something very simple and very brave. It requires you to slow down, to soften, to stop trying to control every outcome, and instead to be present with what is. Because when you are present, you notice more, you feel more, you understand more, without forcing anything. And from that place, something beautiful begins to happen. You stop asking life to prove itself to you, and you begin to trust that it already is. You begin to see that the silence was never empty. It was full of signals, of insights, of gentle nudges that were waiting for your awareness. And suddenly, what once felt like nothing becomes everything. a shift in your mood, a thought that feels lighter, an unexpected sense of clarity that arrives without effort. These are not coincidences. They are responses. Responses to your willingness to listen. And my dear, I want you to carry this with you gently. You are not disconnected. You have never been disconnected. Even in your most confused moments, even in your most uncertain days, even when you felt completely lost, you were still in conversation. You were still being guided. You were still being supported in ways that you may only fully understand later. Because sometimes clarity doesn't come in the moment. It comes in reflection. When you look back and realize, oh, that's why it didn't happen. Oh, that's why it felt that way. Oh, that's why I had to go through that. And in those moments, everything makes sense. Not because life suddenly changed, but because your perspective did. And that, my dear, is the quiet power of listening. It doesn't just change what you hear. It changes how you see. It changes how you interpret your experiences. It softens the fear. It replaces urgency with trust. And from that place, you no longer feel like you are waiting for life to begin. You realize it has been unfolding all along, right here, right now, in every breath, in every pause, in every moment of stillness you once misunderstood. So take another breath with me, slowly, gently, and just notice. What if this moment, exactly as it is not a delay, but a doorway? A doorway into deeper awareness, deeper trust, a deeper connection with the part of you that has always known you are being guided. As you begin to truly hear the universe, my dear, something very subtle yet very powerful starts to shift within you. It's no longer just about the signs or the silence or the waiting. It becomes about you, about who you are becoming in the middle of all of this. Take a soft breath with me, slowly in and gently out, and just feel into this question without pressure. Who are you when you are not chasing anything? Who are you when you are not waiting for something to arrive to finally feel at peace? Because for so long, you may have unknowingly tied your sense of calm, your sense of worth, your sense of, I'm okay, to something outside of you finally happening. When this comes, then I'll relax. When this works out, then I'll feel secure. When I get that sign, then I'll trust. But my dear, can you feel how exhausting that has been? How it keeps you suspended, just slightly out of reach of your own peace. Because peace was never meant to be postponed. It was never meant to be something you earn after everything aligns. It is something you allow now. And this is where listening transforms into becoming. Because when you truly begin to listen to the universe, you stop asking it to prove something to you, and you begin to align yourself with the feeling of already being supported, already being guided, already being enough, even before anything changes. And I know this can feel like a quiet leap, because your mind might say, but nothing has happened yet. And that's okay. Let it say that. You don't need to fight your thoughts. You don't need to silence them. Just notice them, gently, like clouds passing through the sky. Because beneath those thoughts, there is something deeper, a steadiness, a presence, a quiet awareness that doesn't panic, that doesn't rush, that doesn't demand. And that awareness, my dear, is where your true alignment lives. This is the version of you who doesn't need constant reassurance, who doesn't need to chase every opportunity, who doesn't need to force every door open, because she knows what is meant for her will not require her to abandon herself to receive it. Can you feel the softness in that? The relief? Because so much of your exhaustion has come from trying to become someone else just to make things happen. Trying to be more, do more, prove more, as if the universe responds to pressure, but it doesn't. It responds to resonance, to the energy you embody consistently, quietly, truthfully. And when you begin to shift your focus from, when will it happen, to, who am I being right now, everything starts to reorganize. Because now you are no longer waiting. You are participating. You are not standing outside your life, observing it and judging it. You are inside it, shaping it through your presence. And this is where I want to gently offer you something, not as a rule, but as a soft practice, a way of being that you can return to again and again throughout your day in the smallest moments. I want you to pause just for a few seconds and ask yourself, how do I feel right now? Not what you think, not what you should feel, but what is actually present within you. And whatever you find, meet it gently. If there is tension, don't push it away. Just breathe into it. If there is doubt, don't argue with it. Just acknowledge it. If there is calm, let yourself rest in it without questioning it. Because this simple act of noticing without judgment is one of the purest forms of listening. And the more you practice this, the more you begin to understand your own inner language. The more you recognize when something feels aligned and when it doesn't. Not because someone told you, but because you can feel it. And from that place, your decisions become softer but clearer. You don't rush into things that feel heavy. You don't cling to things that feel forced. You begin to trust the subtle signals within you, even when they don't make logical sense at first. And slowly, without needing to control everything, your life begins to shift. Not all at once, not in a dramatic explosion, but in gentle, meaningful ways. You find yourself saying no without guilt. You find yourself saying yes without fear. You find yourself choosing peace, even when uncertainty is still present. And that, my dear, is true alignment, not perfection, not constant happiness, but a steady, growing connection with yourself. Now, let's soften even deeper together, because I want to offer you something that you can carry within you quietly throughout your day. Not something you have to force, but something you can return to, like a familiar breath. Let these words settle into you, gently. I am listening, even when it feels quiet. I am guided, even when I don't see the full path. I trust the timing of what is unfolding for me. I do not need to rush what is already on its way. I am becoming someone who is ready, not someone who is waiting. Just let those words echo softly inside you. You don't need to repeat them perfectly. You don't need to believe them fully yet. Just allow them to exist within you. Because repetition, my dear, is not about convincing yourself. It's about creating familiarity. And what becomes familiar begins to feel safe. And what feels safe becomes easier to embody. Now, there is something else I want to gently bring into your awareness. Because sometimes Even when we say we want something, even when we believe we're ready, there are quiet parts of us that are still afraid. Afraid of change, afraid of responsibility, afraid of stepping into a version of ourselves that feels unfamiliar. And these parts don't show up loudly. They don't announce themselves. They show up as hesitation, as procrastination, as subtle self-sabotage, as a strange discomfort when things start to align. Have you ever felt that? That moment when something good begins to happen, and instead of fully relaxing into it, you feel a little uneasy, a little unsure? That's not failure, my dear. That's protection, a part of you, trying to keep you within what feels known, what feels safe. Even if that safe place is no longer where you truly want to be. And this is where compassion becomes so important, because you don't overcome these parts of yourself by force. You don't push them away, or shame them, or try to eliminate them. You gently acknowledge them. You say, I see you. I understand why you feel this way, but I am safe to grow. And little by little, those parts begin to soften. They begin to trust you. They begin to loosen their grip. And as they do, you become more open, more receptive, more available to receive what has been trying to reach you all along. And this is why listening is so powerful, because it doesn't just connect you to the universe, it reconnects you to yourself, to your truth, to your readiness, to your natural rhythm that was never meant to be rushed. So, as you move through your days, my dear, I don't want you to strain yourself trying to hear something. I don't want you to search desperately for signs. I want you to soften, to notice, to trust the small things, the feelings, the shifts, the quiet moments of clarity that come when you least expect them. Because the universe is not hiding from you. It is not testing you. It is not withholding anything out of punishment. It is simply waiting for you to meet it in awareness. And the more you do, the more you will realize you were never alone in this process. You were never without guidance. You were never unheard. You were simply learning how to listen. So take one more deep breath. Let it settle gently into your chest. And just know this, you are exactly where you need to be. Not because everything is perfect, but because everything is unfolding. And you, my dear, are finally beginning to hear it.